Hi, Sherry. Welcome to Furniture Success Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Could you tell us about yourself, your background, please?
Sure. My name is Sherry Alfaro. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I have a
Mhm,
business in Culver City that actually used to be in Santa Monica. We've been around longer than I've been on this planet because the business used to be my dad. So I took over early 2001, but he had it before I was born since like 1977.
mhm. Perfect. So, how did you get into furniture business? Can you tell us about your furniture background, like and Ralph's interior, please?
So that wasn't actually the intention. When I was graduating high school, I wanted to become a chef.
Mhm,
But my dad ended up taking us back to Costa Rica, where he was from, my last
mhm,
year of high school. And so there wasn't a culinary school in Costa Rica at the time. So I waited for a couple of years and then I moved back over here with that intention. But I needed a
mhm,
job in the meantime. So I asked them for a job and things turned out that stayed. So once I stayed, which was before the internet, I
mhm,
realized that I needed more education in it. So I went back to college and I got an interior architectural design degree.
mhm.
And since then, I've been taking care of the business.
Perfect. Like, what were some of the biggest challenges that made you, uh, start getting education, like in
At the
interior
beginning, it
design?
would be
Mhm,
like I always knew the guts of furniture because I was
mhm,
always the 5-year-old kid who would help my dad sand furniture, strip furniture, take all the tacks and all the staples out. And I learned how to spring probably when I was like 10 years old. Um, and so I knew all of that. I knew the guts, but I didn't know the styles and I didn't know all the fabrics and I didn't know like all of the famous and well-known styles of furniture and designs of furniture. So, people would call me on the phone and they would say, "Hi, I have a Rococo chair and can you guys reupholster that?" And of course I would
mhm,
say, "Yes, of course, ma'am, we can do that." Having no idea what a Rococo chair, right, was. And at
mhm,
the time, we used to have the store in Santa Monica, which was like maybe about 5 blocks away from the public library. So I literally would like sprint to the public library and pull out a book and read what a Rococo style furniture was. So that when the customer would come in, I would feel more confident about what I was talking about and would be able to deal better with the customer. And at that point, I
mhm,
realized I really have to go to school for this. So I
mhm,
went to college and since then, I've really haven't had much of a problem. I usually have a theme that I will say, I'll get myself into trouble in the sense of like I'll never say no to a project. I've done some pretty crazy projects over the years. And then we just have a powwow between all of my employees and I. We're like, okay, how are we gonna do this? And we sit down and we figure it out.
mhm. Yeah. So you mentioned about your team. Like, once you get started, like, obviously you were like taking care of so many things, in your
Yeah.
business. And how has your role evolved since founding the Reps Interiors?
I would say that at the beginning, I thought it was going to be more managerial. And for sure, it has become more of a role of also a teacher and slightly of a mom. Right now that I'm older, when I first started out, I was 21 years old. And so
Mhm,
I think one of the biggest challenges was that, especially in LA, the majority of the men that work within the industry are Latino men. And so, of course, some Latino men didn't want a 21-year-old telling them what to do. So that was very hard for me to like stand my ground and prove my to myself and to them that I knew what I was talking about.
mhm,
Nowadays, it's switched, right? Like now I hire kids that are in their early 20s, mid 20s. And so of course now I have to be more of a mom and a teacher and like having to tell them things like, please organize this, don't leave that around. This is how you cut this. This is how you fold this, things of that nature. So
mhm,
for sure, over the years, and as I matured, I've learned how to deal with people better.
mhm. And how did you improve your leadership skills? Obviously, like you got education, and no, you gained knowledge in the industry. It definitely helped you to manage your team because you know what you're talking about, right? After then,
Right.
and yeah. And other than that, like, how did you practice your leadership skills in your business?
Well, I would say that some of us always just kind of have it inherently. I mean, I was always the kid in school that if I did a group project, I was always going to be taking the leader role.
Mhm.
My husband would say I'm very bossy.
Okay.
So I guess that comes in handy when you actually do become the boss. And pretty much
Uh-huh.
in every job that I ever had before, obviously taking over my dad's business, I always would come out to the top position of whatever the, department or anything like that. I would always be the manager at the end of the going up the scale kind of a thing. So it
Mhm.
wasn't that hard for me to transition into the boss position. But for sure, over the years, I think one of the biggest things is realizing that not everybody is at the same education level, and that not with everyone you can
Mhm.
um, teach them at the same speed, right? They're definitely some of my employees where I can tell them, okay, here's a checklist of everything that needs to happen, and all of those needs to happen for these and these dates. And then there are people where I realize, okay, I'm going to tell them to do this thing for the next 3 days. And then when you're done with that, come and ask me what the next thing is. And that took me
Mhm.
some time because for my brain, it was always so much easier for me to be like, okay, this is everything that I need to do and it needs to get done for this time. And I would just, finish one task and move on to the next task. So
Mhm.
realizing that not everybody's brain worked that way was for sure one of the challenges that I've had to learn and also be patient with people that come and work for me.
I see. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. And how do you approach creating a unique and, competitive design for your clients? Can you tell us about your, you know, project process? How do you nurture it? You know.
Well, for the past few years, probably
Mhm.
more than a decade now, obviously the internet has helped quite a bit. It used to
Mhm.
be that I would, get a phone call. That would be the
Mhm.
initial conversation, and the customer would say whatever I need. I need a custom piece, or I need something reupholstered. And so I would
Mhm.
obviously drive over to the customer and then, hear out what it is that they wanted to do. Nowadays, it makes it a little bit easier that we would have a phone conversation, and then I typically ask for pictures. If it's somebody more in design world, meaning that they're either an interior designer or an architect or somebody that has studied a little bit more about that, then obviously I will ask for floor plans and elevations and things of that nature to get a better grasp. But if not, I literally ask for pictures and somewhat measurements to give myself an idea. And then off of
Mhm.
that, I'm able to ask a bunch of different questions and then sort of monitor whether I feel like I have to go to that customer's house and deal with it myself, or if it's
Mhm.
something that we literally can do with a little bit of back and forth of emails. Then, of course, we will go ahead and write an invoice, get a deposit, and get the roll started. Once we get the ball started, it sort of depends. If it's a custom piece, then of course I have a meeting with my carpenter. We go over how the frame is going to be done. And then
Mhm.
after that, we obviously sit down with the upholsterer and, go over how all the upholstery is going to work. Um, and then finally, obviously, with the customer is all about the fabric choosing, material choosing, that typically is what I would say is most challenging for people. Sorry about the background
Mhm.
noise. This
Yeah,
is
no,
LA.
that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
But, uh, but yeah, so I would say the fabric choosing or the material choosing is always probably the most challenging and the longer taking, right? The people going back and forth on it, but it's also the
Mhm.
most fun for me. I've
Mhm.
always said to myself that if new books, right, because that sample books always come in like a couple of times a year, usually spring and fall. When they come in and I open up one of the boxes and I go through the samples, if I'm not excited about that, I think I'm done with the business. But
Wow.
so far, I always open books and I love how they smell. I love how they feel. I love looking at all the new colors, all the new trends. So that's
Mhm.
always the exciting part as well.
Mhm. And what trends in home interiors or furniture are you most excited about right now?
I would say I'm still pretty excited about the fact that uh, right around the pandemic,
Mhm.
when people started living more in their homes, right? Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, but they started making their homes feel more homey. I'm
Mhm.
not quite sure if it's more of a California thing. Because we are on the west side, it also tends to be very beachy. But I always had this feeling where, like, people would do their homes and not necessarily live in their homes, right? They had, like, these beautiful living rooms, but nobody ever sat in their sofas. And since the pandemic, because we were forced to be home a little bit more, for sure, it has become more of a homey and even homesteady feel, right? And one of the things that I really like about that is that a lot of people are ditching dining rooms and doing banquettes. And it's funny because I love diners. I've always loved diners. When my husband and I do road trips, we always try to eat at diners. And if we go to a restaurant, we love sitting at booths. I just like that sort of community feel that it gives you. And so the fact that we're still doing banquettes 5 years after the pandemic, um, really makes me hope that people kind of switched a little bit inside and are really sitting down for breakfast with their kids and their family and, sharing a bit more.
Well, yeah. And how do you balance aesthetics with functionality when selecting pieces for a project? Like, you know, it's really tough for a designer.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I would say that working with interior designers, you would think that it's more of an advantage because we're kind of speaking the same lingo and understanding each other as far as like how ergonomics work most of the time.
Mhm.
But sometimes it's obviously a little bit more challenging as well because they're more demanding and they know exactly what it is that they want. Um, Whereas obviously a person walking off the street or, a regular person in their home that doesn't have anything to do with interior designer, it's like you have to really hold their hand through the beginning of the process. But there's also more of an excitement towards the end because they have no idea what to expect. And of course, like an interior designer would have a better idea or concept of what the end product would look like. That's another one of the really big challenges of obviously owning a custom built furniture place is that you don't actually have anything there for someone to sit on, for someone to test out, for someone to say, no, I want it deeper. No, I want it shallower. No, I want it taller. No, I want it, all of that has to come kind of through the process. And of course, they have to trust you 100% that what you're doing and what they're telling you to do translates onto an actual piece that from the beginning doesn't exist. So so that for sure I think has a lot to do with you being confident in the information that you have and making that aware to the customer that you know what you're doing and for them to trust you.
Mhm. And like, how do you manage timing and customer satisfaction, in your projects?
Typically, people will ask me, what's the turnaround time for whatever the project is? And I will tell them. But I also really love when I tell them that. And then I say, but do you have a date for where you need it? And, if the date is within reasonable amount of time, then I will say, okay, well, then let's make that happen. And of course, that means sometimes shifting things around, pausing maybe a project that has a longer deadline, having my employees work on something that needs to be done right away, or it means asking them to maybe stay a little longer or to come in on over the weekends just so that we can make it happen. Fortunately, we have a really good team and my employees are very flexible when it comes to that. They understand that sometimes we're really, really busy and then sometimes we're not as busy. So on the times that we're not as busy, they have more free time and I'm able to tell them, go away, go to the beach, do something fun.
Wow. Right. And how do you reach and attract new clients in today's competitive, interior design market?
Okay, I'll be very honest. Because we've been on the West Side for so, so long, I haven't really had to do that much advertising ever. I do a little bit on Yelp. I do some Google ads, but 99% of the people that come to our business are word of mouth. I would say
Referrals.
nowadays, younger generations, right? The people that are in their 30s and even 20s are definitely coming through the reviews that are coming in through Yelp and Google, in LinkedIn, um, and things like Nextdoor. I'm not sure if where you're at, you have Nextdoor, but it's like community-based, social media. And so I do a lot of that. I also have like an Instagram, which is like impossible to have a business nowadays and not be on social media. I'm not the best at keeping up with it, but I definitely have it. And but yet again, the for sure the majority of the customers that come in, whether it is an interior designer or a regular person, come through word of mouth. It's always like, oh, my neighbor told me about you, or my aunt told me about you, and they come in. So I it sounds horrible, but I really don't make that huge of an effort to like reach out to new customers. They just simply come in, and fortunately and thankfully, we're always very busy.
Perfect. Yeah. So let me ask you this question. Like, you've been in this business for over 20 years,
Yes.
and like you had some crisis, recessions, whatever, like in 20, 25 years.
Right.
And what do you think about, like current furniture industry situation? Like, because like I know like most of the people in the industry, they're having hard times
We are.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what could be the ideal strategy for, especially for new generations or new businesses, in the industry?
Well, I would say the biggest challenge since a few years ago, if obviously the ease for people to shop online, very inexpensive furniture. So I would say if you're just starting out in this industry, probably the biggest thing to do would be to educate people. Right? And I think that one of my roles at my business is when people come in, there's two scenarios. If you come in and the piece is not worth it to reupholster, to be honest and say, I honestly think that you're probably better off buying another piece of furniture of the same quality if that's what your budget is, if that's what your price point is, instead of obviously wanting to reupholster something that it's not worth. But also, like, if it's a younger generation, and for sure, I feel there's a lot of 20-something-year-olds that are starting to leave their homes, right? They're starting to, like, maybe go to college, and then after college, getting their first apartment and that sort of thing, that are maybe getting their grandmother's hand-me-downs. I always tell them for sure that is absolutely worth it. Go ahead and reupholster that. If it's lasted your grandmother 50 years, by all means, it's gonna last you another 20 to 30 years in good condition. So, um, I think education is what's behind it. And one of the other challenges that are being presented nowadays, I think it's AI, right? Everybody is like so quick to go to AI to fix everything. Um, so having people know that things that are done with your hands are never going to be able to be done by a robot the same way.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, so for sure, yes. I mean, we're all going through those challenges. I see it in all of my suppliers. I see it in all of my subcontractors. Um, well, here in LA, obviously, you know about our fire, so we lost a lot of clientele through the people that lost their homes in the fires. And maybe in about 3 to 4 years that some of those homes are being rebuilt, we'll gain that clientele back if they're able
Hopefully.
to
Yeah.
rebuild. But regardless, for sure, this year has been one of the slowest years in my 24 years of having the shop. And heck, I thought that 2008 was bad, and then I thought 2020 was bad, and for sure 2025 is building up to be the worst year. Um, it has definitely been one of those years where you have to rethink, okay, how do I reach out to maybe a younger generation? How do we like educate people on knowing what kind of furniture will last them? How do we educate people that, yes, even though we're all going through a recession right now, it is still smarter to get a piece of furniture that is going to last you longer than to get something that's going to last you 3 years and then, of course, dump it, do damage to the planet, and then have to buy yourself another one that's going to last you another 3 years because you're still at that point not going to really have the budget to um, get a better piece.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I've considered is, um, there's for sure companies out there. If you're starting out a new business, maybe there's companies out there that you can partner with to be able to finance things for people, like give
Mhm.
them in payment installments if you're able to afford that as a small business, by all
Mhm.
means, because I think we all have to think about the changes we have to make around the economy that we're living in.
Correct. Yeah. You mean like financial institutions like Affirm, Synchrony, or Snap, like things like that,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
correct. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe like people purchased like cheap products during COVID, like from Wayfair, IKEA, like whatever,
Correct.
from this big name, furniture brands. And they experienced that it's not going to last long, you know, and
Right.
they needed to buy again. And I believe like when I remember like from my parents, grandparents, like they keep furniture like for
A
20, 30
lifetime.
years. You
Right.
understand what I mean? Like, and it's when you think long term, it is cheaper. You know.
Yeah, I
Um.
mean, I literally just had this week a customer come in, um, that brought me an invoice that my dad had made for her in 1992.
Wow.
And if you were to look at the pictures she brought me, which were Polaroids, it was just so cute because it was like everything was so vintage at this point.
Yeah.
It even made me cry because my dad is no longer around. The customer knew him, and we had a conversation about him. But that's like a perfect example of a testament of a piece of furniture that has endured. She's literally had this piece of furniture that my dad built for her since 1992.
Mhm.
I think we've reupholstered it once, and now she's ready to reupholster it again. And you think to yourself,
Mhm.
and it's still going, like, so whatever that initial investment in 1992 was, can you imagine? It's obviously still worth it.
Yep. Yep. That's perfect. Yeah. And how do you social media? How's the social media and digital marketing play a role in your business? Like, I know you're getting referrals. You've been in the business for a long time, but still, you need to have presence in social media, right?
100%. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
100%. So, we do Instagram. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
have a website, of course. It's like what business can't have a website these days? We
Yeah.
obviously have a website. We have Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I do LinkedIn as well. I would say the strongest would be Instagram in the sense of you can build up a reel, so a short video. There's a lot of opportunity to be able to educate people. It's
Mm-hmm.
always funny to me because sometimes I'll join groups of other upholsterers, or sometimes I see people doing videos where they're like upholstering, DIY. And,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I always try to like, jump in and say, if you did it this way, it would turn out this way, or actually you should be doing it this way so that it's a little bit better. Um, and I think that going back to the whole, like, let's educate people so that they realize, yes, go buy that piece at the
Mm-hmm.
thrift store for, a couple $100 and invest $1,000 in it. But then you're going to have a sofa that if you were to build it from scratch, it would be easily a $6,000 sofa, right? So,
Yeah.
like, for sure, that's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Seek those pieces of furniture of good woods that are made in walnut, that are made in mahogany, that are made with oak. Restore them, like really consider, instead of going this to a landfill, can I put it in my home? So those I think are some of the most interesting videos when it comes to putting them up on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram and social media.
Yeah, and you show them you are an authority, in your field,
Yes.
and you are someone that they can trust, your
Correct.
expertise. Yeah. And it also, like, what we realized, like, in last 6, 7 months,
Mhm.
it triggers AI as well, AI search results. Because, like, in generative AI, if you show people on social media, on YouTube, on Reddit, Quora, like Medium, if you have articles, if you, give answers on those platforms as an
Right.
expert, then once people, ask ChatGPT, hey, like I moved to a new home. I want to work with someone in my, area. So he could be the best designer for my project. And then ChatGPT gives your name and your business because like you help people and you are the authority in that area.
Yeah,
And
that
my
happens
clients are,
more
yeah.
that happens more through, like, LinkedIn
Hmm.
and Nextdoor, where,
Yeah.
like, neighbors are asking something, so I'll chime in with some sort of answer, or
Yep.
sometimes I don't even mention my business necessarily, but
Hmm.
obviously by me acknowledging that I know how to do something, it helps out in the sense of them reaching out and asking more.
Hmm. And it gives you an opportunity to partnering with others, you know, other
Right.
businesses in your area. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It also,
Perfect.
that sense of community helps you to not, um, feel so alone in the whole process of you being an entrepreneur and having a business. Because I feel like sometimes you feel like you're the only one drowning in all the problems and all the bills and all the everything, and, like,
Hmm.
and the customers and the employees and everything. So, obviously, when you're trying to when you work within the community and you meet with other business owners and you have conversations and you know that all of you are going through those challenges, it helps out to not feel so alone.
Oh, yep. And what are your tips for maintaining a motivated and creative team? Like you let them go to the beach, but what else? Like,
We go out to dinner. I
hmm.
make sure that for holidays we celebrate them, for birthdays,
Hmm.
little things like, well, uh, as I mentioned it before, what I really wanted to be was a chef. So actually, after becoming an interior designer, I went
Hmm.
back to college and I became a chef. So I do a lot of baking and a lot of cooking, and I will always come in with treats to give them. Um, Funny enough, one of the things that they love is that I bring in my dogs to work, and so that's always a good distraction. They pet
Uh-huh.
them, and I think, it might sound like something stupid, but obviously it's something like it releases oxytocin, and you get a chance to, like, distract yourself from, I don't know, stapling or hammering or whatever it is that you're doing. The dog comes in and you get a little bit of time with them. Um, no, I'm pretty chill as a boss, I would say, in that sense. I'm more of like, okay, here's the project. It needs to be done by this date. I don't necessarily worry too much about schedules in the sense of, like, you need to be here at 8 and your lunch is at 1 and you leave at 5. I'm more of like, this is the project. You do it in your time. As long as the project is done and everything looks good, we're good. If you need to leave because you need to pick up your daughter, or your son got sick, or any of those situations, I'm usually very flexible as
Hmm.
far as that goes. Like, I have one of my employees who's a grandma now, and she helps one of the days of the week, her daughter with the grandchild. And so what she
Hmm.
does is that she cuts things ahead of time, and then she takes them home and sews them at home while she's taking care of her grandchild. So,
Hmm.
I think that as a small business owner and within this industry, you just have to
Hmm.
figure out how to work with the people and understand that we're all human and that we all have situations that we have to go through. Um,
Correct.
and not do it so strictly about schedules. Well,
Hmm.
obviously there's shops that do it differently, but maybe because I'm a woman and I always thought if I ever
Hmm.
became a mom, I would want people to have more of an understanding. It
Hmm.
might have something to do with I also was brought up in Costa Rica, and so it's very different than here. It's not all about production, production, production. To me, it's like we're
Hmm.
human beings and we still need a rest. In fact, sometimes
Hmm.
when customers are like, "Can you do this by this date?" I'm like, we're not machines. Like, if you w we're
Yeah.
still human, we still need to stop and eat, we still need to stop and rest, and so you need to also
Correct.
understand that. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes when you tell people that ahead of time, they also pause, right? Because the United States has this tendency to everything be so fast and quick that
Correct.
when you let people know, deep down inside, I'm still made of bones and skin,
Hmm.
and then they realize that, oh, okay. And to a certain degree, I almost feel like they have more respect for what it is that you do, and
Yeah.
uh, and appreciate the work that you do more.
Mhm. Yeah, you shouldn't say yes to everything, right? As a business
True.
owner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to know your limits as well.
yeah. And how do you make sure world-class quality and customer satisfaction on the other side?
Well, I check every job that we do. At the end of the
Mhm,
job, I make sure that, and throughout the process, I mean, sometimes my employees see me walking around and they might not think that I might just be walking around to like give them an order or something like that. But typically, I'm like looking around, right? Like, is that corner okay? Are those arms matching? Did the skirt turn out even? All those little details. And sometimes from far away, I'm like, hey, over there, that little curve over there, kind of a thing.
mhm,
Um, and then one of them jokes around that I'm on the phone answering an email and then I'll hang up and finish the email and go like, nope, that's not how that's supposed to go. And they're like, weren't you just doing other things? But when you train your eye to look at things like that, it's like you can see them from far away. So usually throughout the process, I'm looking at things. And then of course at the end, I look at things. And then I think
mhm,
one of the biggest things is that when you deliver or you install, or of course the customer comes and picks it up, you show it to them and then you ask for feedback, right? Like, I think that one of the most encouraging things for my employees is for me to tell them, hey, Mrs. Spurgeon said that the chair was beautiful and that you did a great job matching the skirt, and that the buttons match perfectly and that type of things. And it always gives you, we're all human and our ego is always nice to get a little pat on the back about our jobs being well done. So if I didn't do the job personally, I can definitely tell somebody else, you know, she
mhm.
thought it was great, the customer thought it was great, and thank you so much for what you do.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And what advice would you give someone starting their own interior design or furniture business today?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
Like, what advice would you give to someone starting their own business today, interior design or furniture business? So, what
I would
advice would you,
say
yeah.
two things. One, learn to do the math on how to calculate things, because it's
Mhm,
always surprising to me how many people graduate from college and don't know how to do the math and then get scammed. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many people come to me and say, oh, but last time there's a poster asked me and he said that he needed 30 yards. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm
Okay.
so sorry, but you don't need 30 yards." So, learn to do the math, at least for basic things. It's also surprising to me, especially interior designers that are just starting out, when they're like, how
Mhm.
much fabric do I need for two 18 by 18 pillows? And I mean, like, they're squares. You can't add up. Well, anyway. So I'm like, do a little bit of reasoning behind like how much they've asked you so that you don't end up overpaying for material that you shouldn't overpay for.
Yeah.
And the other thing is learn how to do taxes. This
Okay.
doesn't get you,
Finance.
but
Yeah.
for sure, I think a lot of people go into businesses thinking all the creative things and the juices are flowing and everything is so beautiful. And I want to like leave this home so beautifully done, but they don't think about all the accounting behind that, right? And
Yeah.
uh and how many people you have to like subcontract, and so like at the end of the day, it really is a business about numbers. And if you don't know how to do the
Correct.
numbers, then you really can get yourself into trouble.
Yeah.
Figuring out how much all the materials of the inner materials, not just the
Mhm.
the fabrics, but if you're
Yeah.
actually going to be in the industry of building furniture, like how much foam is it going to take? How much cotton batting is it going to take? How much webbing are you going to take? How much waste
Mhm.
can you afford to have? All of that is just really important to know,
Mhm.
because otherwise your numbers are never going to add up.
Yeah. And you shouldn't forget about the profit
Yes, of
or
course.
owner's
There's
pay. Yeah.
sometimes you pay everybody except yourself,
Yeah. Not
especially at the
sometimes, like
beginning.
it's typically like for the first couple of years, it's like one of the biggest mistakes done by new business
Yeah.
owners. Like they forget
Yeah,
about
and that
the
I
profit
would
part,
say
and
that
yeah.
probably since HGTV era, right? There's
Uh-huh.
so many younger interior designers that will look at those, like, TV shows where they come in and they, like, redo a house in 3 months and everything looks perfect, but they don't realize the crew behind all of that happening and how
Yeah.
much it costs. And then the other thing is that it's just there's a lack of understanding all the intricacies behind the process. And so I feel like a lot of them get very frustrated. Some of them end up making really expensive mistakes. Depending on the connections you have or the areas that you're in, those mistakes can become even lawsuits. So, you have to be very, very careful with the numbers. Learn
Mhm.
that before you get all excited about colors and rugs and lamps and you name it. Learn that,
Mhm. Yeah.
definitely budgeting, taxes, and calculating is so, so important when it comes to a business like that.
Yeah. And are there any tools or systems you rely on to streamline operations or client communications that you recommend, maybe?
I use QuickBooks at my
Mhm.
business. Over the years, it has evolved quite a bit. I also use Notion. Is
Mhm.
It helps me with organizing our to-do list. What fabrics have come in, if they're tagged, uh, keeping straight like all of the orders, what belongs to what, tag everything that comes into the business. Put a name on everything, like where the fabric came in, if a cushion was dropped off, if a chair was dropped off, anything, you need to tag it. And so keeping a list of like who came in, when they came in, and what they dropped off is super important.
Mhm.
Notion has definitely helped with that. And then it also helps with organizing social media. So, like having a log of ideas of videos that you want to do, keeping your files together for a specific project or a specific client that has really it's been revolutionary as far as that goes. Um, Again, going back to sadly the fires that we had here in LA,
Mhm.
this year, it really helped with customers going back and saying, "Hey, Sherry, any chance you have any pictures of the pieces that you did for me last year that now, of course, I lost so that I can submit them to insurance?" And it was just an easy, like, you know,
Wow.
Laura so and so, let me pull it up and
Mhm.
be able to send you everything.
Wow. Yeah. It's so
So yeah,
important, right? Yeah.
I would say those two are my biggest tools as far as technology goes.
Mhm. Mhm. And what's a project or accomplishment you're most proud of at Ralph's Interiors?
Like a specific piece of furniture or
Yeah,
like a
like,
whole project?
yeah, doesn't matter. Like,
Um, Funny enough, I would say maybe it's not a piece of furniture that I'm so proud of. So we
really?
work for an artist and
Mhm.
we always do some pretty crazy things for her. Last year, she's I would say borderline very controversial artist. So last year we created a two AK-47s, but
Mhm.
they were ginormous. And so it was like a stuffed animal, but it was an AK-47 and one was white and one was red. And the interpretation was for her to have people think about how stupid war is. And so,
Wow.
and because they were all flabby and, soft, she hung them to look that way. And so we've done some pretty creative things for her. And
Wow.
this is LA, so people will do some
Yeah.
really interesting things. We
Yeah.
also did a chair to look like a dragon, maybe about a year and a half ago. That was a whole process. It had like fur and spurs and I don't know, metal, and it was crazy, crazy piece of furniture. But it was, I probably lost money on it because I obviously did not calculate it well enough considering all the changes the customer did.
Uh-huh.
But it was so much fun for the whole crew to do it because it was
Mhm.
just so different than what we normally would do,
Mhm.
that it didn't matter, right? It still taught us so many lessons and how to accomplish it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And how do you envision the future of your business in the 5 years?
Well, one, I'm hoping we're still around.
Mhm. Yeah, of course. Like, I believe like
We'll
you
see
have an
how it
established
goes.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, no. No, I think that we're starting to um go through a new generation of interior designers. uh, f- Interior designers that are now in their 30s are starting to reach out to us, are starting to build up that clientele to be able to obviously afford custom pieces because, as we all know, not everybody can. And
Mhm.
so that moves us into a new generation. um, the pandemic really taught us how much we could do online. Like, even myself, I didn't at the beginning, I didn't know how to like maneuver around it
Mhm.
because it's such a tactile industry, right? People want to feel the fabrics, people want to go through all the different materials, people want to sit in the different densities of foam, want to feel the down versus the fiber cushion. It was hard to maneuver around that. And I think nowadays it really taught us all those lessons. I realized like I could do so much more through the internet that we would give ourselves credit for. And so
Mhm.
that newer generation of interior designers that are coming through the pandemic have definitely evolved us in that sense. And so, I feel like in the next 5 years, we're ready for those new challenges. Um, I'm also hoping that that whole 20 something year old population right now that are starting to appreciate and care for the planet more realize that refurbishing a piece of furniture can really do a great good for the planet instead of buying a cheap piece of furniture and then having to throw it away. And
Mhm.
so I'm hoping that that's going to be the new wave of clients that we can teach and that we can motivate to do things better.
Wow. Yeah, and what inspires you personally as a designer and business owner?
The rest of my life.
Okay.
Meaning meaning, my other passions. If I didn't have other passions, I don't know if it has to do with neurodivergency or the fact that I'm a Pisces, but I love art in general. So my husband and I, we
Mhm.
do a lot of travel. I love
Mhm.
cooking. I have my dogs. This year we became chicken parents, so that's kept me pretty entertained. But if I didn't have all of that other interest in my life, I think it would just become so monotonous that it would all have to be about the business.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes when I meet up with some of my ex employees that now have businesses and have had businesses for a while, and
Mhm.
they're like so like into the business that they're like getting themselves so frustrated with the whole system. I always tell them, you need to find yourself something else to do. You can't,
Mhm.
you won't be a quality boss and a quality producer if you're not taking care of yourself. So,
Yes.
find a hobby, go out with your kids, go out even with your own employees. Like, I encourage my employees to come camping with us all the time. About 3 weeks ago, we all went to a river and, like jumped into the water and listened to the water, listened to the birds. We're within the trees. And
Mhm.
so, you would think that that doesn't really happen in LA as much, but because that's my thing, I make sure that my employees are like on board with it.
Yeah,
So
it's
so,
true. Yeah.
for sure, take care of yourself first so that you can take care of others.
Yeah. And are there any philosophies or guiding principles that you live by?
Don't say no to a challenge.
Okay.
It will just make you stronger.
Yeah. Accept the challenges, right? Wow. And yeah, uh, Sherry, like this is one of the best episodes, and I really enjoyed. And
Thank you. Appreciate it.
yeah, would you like to share your contact information for our listeners if they want to, reach out to you?
So my
Yeah.
business is called Ralph's Interiors. You can find us at ralphsinteriors.net. You can also find us on Instagram at Ralph's Interiors. And on LinkedIn, Rails Interiors, my name is Sherry Alfaro. It's spelled SherryAlfaro. And if you're ever on the west side, come and visit.
Perfect. So thank you for participating in Furniture
Thank
Success
you for the
Podcast.
invitation.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Appreciate it.